That is right. I think we're live, and there's no way really to check until we get some people in the chat, which, there I go with the Christopher Walken thing again. I don't know what that is.
It's like a tick.
It's a tick. It definitely is. But, as we wait for people to come into the chat, I'd like to say good evening to both of you. And you know what? It's not just Brad. It is Brad, the one, the only, B to the R to the ad. You my man. How you doing, Brad?
I'm fantastic.
Man, he is so confused. Look at that confusion on his face.
You threw it for a loop.
My God.
The other podcast called me super special, and I'm just feeling it. So they got the wrong guy. But we do have 6 sets of eyeballs on us. It looks like, according to the.
Yeah. So then we got
or
Joey.
6
Joey,
eyeballs,
welcome.
I'm not sure.
And I just want to say how exciting I am. Excited.
You're exciting?
I'm
You are
excited.
excited.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to do this live because for many reasons, 80s is my decade, but we have a new Scarif Scuttlebutt host, and I'd like to just officially, I guess this is her first Scarif Live. Chantal, how are you?
I'm good. Glad
Excellent.
to be here.
Thank you for
A little
joining
nervous. No problem.
No, don't be nervous at all.
We're gonna have a mispronunciation jar every time you say her name wrong. We're just gonna, and then you're gonna buy drinks.
Yeah.
I'll just
My
buy
mom will be
drinks.
so happy.
Let's just cut to the chase. I'll just buy drinks. But you know what? Since we have everybody on board here, and we have one of our patrons, Joey Rosales, people starting to come in. Thank you very much, guys. But why don't we do this right, huh? What do you think?
Yeah, maybe we can
Sounds
do that.
good.
I was just gonna comment that I liked that there was 6 sets of eyes, and then like very quickly went down to 5. Like, whoa, this is not the right. I didn't mean to click on this video. That's
All right. Hold on to your hats.
Fine.
We'll be right back.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
And welcome back, everybody. Okay, so that is official. We have now started the Scarif Live. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this Sunday night, February 28th. The Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast is here. We are new and improved, Brad. What do you think about that?
well, we're kind of old, but we are improved.
Yeah.
We got a much needed makeover or facelift or whatever
Whatever you want to call it. But
great
again, I
night.
was before the little intro. I just wanted to reiterate how cool it is to have a new team member on the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Let's everybody in the chat. Let's say hello and welcome to Chantal. How are you?
Good. I'm really, really happy and excited to be here. This is going to be so much fun.
Excellent. Wow, look at all the people in the chat. We got Charlie from our fellow Red Fiver. We got Nicole. Hello, Nicole. And Dave Richards. I love that. We're doing it. I think we're doing it earlier for folks across the pond, too, because sometimes we go a little late. And I know people have to wake up in the morning and work. What's that all about? But we're going a little earlier. Just to kind of help everybody out, and we are going to have a good time. Scott's in the house. Scott, Mr. Scott Rapina. Am I saying your last name right? Rapina? I always want to, because I'm Hispanic, I always want to roll whatever R. So it's like Scarif, Scuttlebutt podcast. I don't know.
Wow.
we can use that. We can
Yeah.
use that.
Yeah, sure. Excellent. But so what are we talking about tonight? This, like I said, this is a really great episode. But before that, I want to thank everybody who listened to last week's episode, the humor episode. And Chantal, thank you very much for suggesting that topic. Again, it's a topic that we didn't realize that we never really covered. I don't know if it was because, I mean, like we were really into Star Wars and we're serious about it, and humor just never crossed my mind. But I'm like looking through it, I'm like, yeah, we've never covered the parodies. Obviously we talked about Troops and Family Guy and Robot Chicken and all that stuff. So thank you very much for that, and thank you guys to thank you everybody who listened to it. We actually pleasantly surprised that we surpassed the downloads on that episode in less than 2 days, which is better than the previous episode, the Tatooine Hot Takes, which was out for already like 10 days. So that's amazing. I know you guys love Star Wars humor and things like that, but it was a really nice surprise. What do you think about that?
Oh, thank you to everyone for listening, first of all.
And it was kind of like your premiere breakout episode with us. This will be the official one, but last week was a lot of fun. Did you have fun?
I did. I had a blast. And especially since comedy is very important to me, even more so, I was really happy to speak on a subject that I really love and combined two things that I really love. So thank you.
That's awesome. Brad, you're not a very funny guy though, but how did you like that episode?
It's never been my forte, but it just went to prove our theory that people are sick of listening to you and me. Oh, wait, no, that's just my theory. So I went to prove my theory that people are just sick of listening to you and me. So great to have you on board with us. And, not only do we, enter a new member into our team, but also we decided to expand our horizons. Obviously, we'll always love Star Wars first and foremost, but there is so much good nerd stuff to talk about out there. So we are incorporating all that. I'm sure you guys have seen all the great improvements Ro has made on the Twitter page. And we're going to be talking about all things geek now. So this is kind of our first opportunity to do that. And, we've got a good show planned here. We're going to talk about all things 80s. Ro was in his prime in the 1980s. He's an expert on the decade, and obviously for movies, I think that was really the golden years these days for nerddom, at least. So many. We're not going to spoil them now. We're gonna start talking about them. But 1980s, for those of you in the chat, go ahead and start talking about your favorite 80s movies, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it as well here on the show.
Excellent. I noticed a while ago some people were asking folks on Twitter what their favorite movie poster was, and I just wanted to mention that, who was it that, let's see, favorite movie posters, Blast Point's podcast put up their favorite movie poster, and it was a movie that was right up your alley, Brad. It was the Return of the Jedi poster where Luke is holding the lightsaber straight up. Really great image. Obviously, one of the Star Wars movies from the original trilogy that was your favorite. But let's go around the table here and find out what your favorite movie posters are based on that post.
Ooh. Wow.
And then let's narrow it down. Let's keep it to the 80s movies.
I was about to say Alien, but that I think that was late 70s actually, the first one.
I think that was 79.
The sequel was in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I would have guessed wrong.
You're talking about the one with the egg?
Yeah.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorites. Oh man, favorite poster. Well, if you get the Return of the Jedi early enough, you could get it before they actually changed the name of the movie. Because it was originally Revenge of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. So that's a collector's item if you can get your hands on that. It's probably reprinted by now.
Many times over.
I'm going to have to go, I'm going to have to go between two of my loves. So probably the Empire Strikes Back poster.
My girl.
And because he will always be the love of my life, the 1989 Batman. I love just that symbol, just nice and simple. You know who it is. You always know who Batman is. Yeah. So yeah, those are probably my two.
There are a lot of great sci-fi movies out there, but I think when it comes to posters, anything that Drew Struzan has draw, anything he has taken pen and paper to is great. So you've got the Blade Runner poster, you've got the Raiders of the Lost Ark posters, you've got Goonies, obviously. His art is just, I mean, it's even beyond photoreal. It's just a really great placement. The composition. Tried to get him on the podcast, but he responded and said that he is retired, so he doesn't do any of that stuff anymore. But really great stuff. Like I said, anything that he is involved in is really fantastic in my book.
Yep, and I was just thinking about a couple more. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I mean, it's just very simple. Again, it's just him chilling, but that really symbolizes the movie. And I was just thinking about the Willow poster.
Oh yeah,
that's a good one.
So yeah, all kinds of good ones.
Now here's the thing. It's funny that you mentioned Willow, and I know they're working on a Disney Plus series. I think it's going to be a miniseries, but it took them long enough. I really loved Willow when it first came out. It was a really nice little story. Had some parallels to Star Wars, the original Star Wars. But it's always interesting to see how these old stories, because Willow is it reminded me of the Moses story. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool how they kind of take old stories and kind of bring them into the new, I guess, the new era. But that's kind of like George Lucas. That's what he loves to do. And obviously, we all know that George Lucas is into, anthropology and the study of, humanity and social work, whatever. So it's kind of pretty cool. I like that. And I can't wait. Willow is another one of my favorite, genre movies. It's too bad it didn't get a sequel per se, but a lot of technical advances were also, discovered or worked on Willow. The first morph, which we saw late in the movie, so that's really cool. Everybody and their grandmother's doing morphs now, especially in the 90s. You guys know I'm a big movie technology geek, so those are some of the things that really excite me.
Same.
Somebody mentioned the Goonies in the chat too, so shout out to the Goonies poster and the movie. And I don't care what Alex from Salty Nerd Podcast says, Goonies is a classic. And
I don't know what's wrong with him.
I don't,
what?
Yeah,
Wait. Hold on.
Yep.
Time out.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I mean,
yep.
I refrain from telling him that dinosaurs are fake and they never existed. All right. I don't say that. I let him have his Jurassic Park love. But yeah, he doesn't like the Goonies, and I can't explain it.
Goonies is Goonies is one of those movies that if it's on TV, I will stop and I will watch it. I don't care what point it's at. I don't care if it's the last 10 minutes of the movie. I will watch it. I love that movie. Oh my God. That's a no-no.
I don't know what's wrong with him. He grew up in a weird
but he's child, he's not the first person that I've heard that doesn't understand the fascination with Goonies. So
it had Thanos. It had Thanos in it, for God's sake.
I know, young Thanos. Come on.
That's hilarious. Yeah, Tron's another one. Frank's got a good point. Tron is a really great poster.
I had that on my list too. It's a beautiful poster.
But there's a lot. Again, there's a lot of movies out there with some great posters, and I don't know what else is on the agenda here, but I don't know if you guys want to start talking about that. One quick note: later on, we're gonna talk. Last episode we had the Tatooine hot takes, the winners of the questions that we put out regarding the original Red 5 name. Who was Red 5 before Luke? We got 5 people that answered. We actually have 6 people that answered. But we announced that we were going to select 5 people. We'll see how that goes because, we don't want to leave anybody out in the cold. So I have no problem with that. But let's talk 80s, people. What's going on?
You want to go favorite movies? We talk about favorite posters.
Yeah. your notes are pretty good. One of the so we started the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast obviously on the basis of Star Wars, but there's all sorts of other things that we really like to talk about. I think one of the other trilogies for me as a geek, and it comes from the 80s, is Indiana Jones. I think my friend and I, we probably quote as much Indiana Jones in our daily lives, probably as much as Star Wars. But it's another thing that I love talking about. I love Harrison Ford, obviously in Star Wars, but he's equally incredible in Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Indiana Jones films. I think recently I just watched the last one, which obviously is not a fan favorite, but it's not as bad as people say, I don't think. But Aliens and Indiana Jones kind of are a little off-putting for some people, but there's a lot of elements in that movie that I really love. But what about you guys? What's your other go-to 80s movies?
Okay, well, I already said Empire Strikes Back. I already said Goonies, so I'm in agreement with you also. I've always loved the Indiana Jones. In fact, I sometimes go back and forth, which do I like more of Harrison Ford? Do I like him as Han Solo or do I like him as Indy? I can never really decide. But I guess, well, first of all, I love E.T., so that's like another...
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, Steven Spielberg, just in general... He owned, I feel like so much of the 80s. For instance, if you want to go switch over to the horror side, Poltergeist is one of my favorite movies. Yeah. So, and of course, Batman, like I said earlier.
I was on Force of Light Entertainment. I see you there in the chat. Welcome to the show, ladies. And we talked about Indiana Jones, and I'm amazed how many people still consider that a trilogy, even though Crystal Skull is there, but people still call it's a trilogy. Plus, they have the extra movie.
I forgot about Crystal Skull.
It's there. It's a thing. But
and I saw it in theater.
Yeah. As far as throwaway movies, I know a lot of people are going to give me crap for this. Is the Evil Dead movies. I haven't gotten to my favorite yet, but I'm just throwing out some of my favorites, I'll get to it. But the Evil Dead movies, I mean, when you talk about quoting movies and just putting those into your normal conversations, you can't, you're in charge of three things right now, pal, Jack and shit, and Jack just left town. There's so many good quotes in those movies. So Ash is amazing. The actor is amazing. I love those movies. But my all-time favorite movie outside of Star Wars comes from the 80s, and also a good poster, The Princess Bride. And that is because that movie absolutely has everything in it. No matter, and you've seen, I'm sure most people have seen the memes for it. No matter what genre of movie you're looking for, it is that movie. And I don't know how the hell they did it. But fantasy, romance, comedy, action, every single, Carrie Elways was just amazing in that. He had a couple of years there. He dropped off a little bit after that, but a couple of years there, he was in Glory with Matthew Broderick, and he did, Princess Bride around the same time. He was on fire there for a couple of years there in the 80s. And, Billy Crystal was in that movie. Just so many good actors, and they all gave 100%. And talk about rewatchability. I could watch that show or that movie weekly, I think, and not get sick of it. Still, that's one of those. I don't see replays of it too much on TV, but it's always a go-to movie for me, and just good for all ages as well. So.
And Andre the Giant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Columbo was in it?
Yeah.
Because I can't remember his name.
Isn't it Peter Falk?
Oh, Columbo, yeah. I was thinking Telly Savalas.
No.
Kojak, yeah.
No, not Kojak.
Yeah. Yeah, those are great. What I don't know if we're going to cover this, but what a great time to be a nerd was the 80s. there's a lot of people that are saying that some of the movies that were released in the 80s probably couldn't be released nowadays with people's kind of oversensitivity issues, whatever. But we really did live in a time. I guess for us that lived in the time, but it was a lot of fun. These movies were great. People are mentioning Beverly Hills Cop is another great one. Airplane. I absolutely love
movie.
The Airplane movies. And even before that, when there was the TV series Police Squad, those are fantastic. And I love the humor in those. I love all that tongue-in-cheek, Shirley, you must be joking. I'm not. I'm serious, and don't call me Shirley. So
don't call me Shirley. Those. And to go along with that is Naked Gun. And of course, O.J. Simpson, the great actor that he was. But you're talking about you can't remake movies. I'm probably not going to watch the new Coming to America because the original is just so freaking funny. If you're not basically crying the entire time, laughing at the original Coming to America, I don't think I know you. But I just don't think it's going to have the same. I mean, because that's one of those ones we talked about, Ro, where you can't make that movie these days. So I'm guessing the new one's not that. So I'm probably not going to be watching that one unless I hear some really good things about it.
I just watched the trailer and it wasn't really all that funny.
No.
And I know, it really does. Cutting trailers is an art form. I used to actually collect, and I have a VHS of just trailers, movie trailers. And the movie trailers nowadays, I mean, they're pretty bad. I mean, they give the entire story away in a minute and a half. And then at that point, it's like, why even bother go see the movie? But it's definitely an art form to edit these trailers. But yeah, it wasn't that funny. One of the things that I would like to see, and obviously because I think it's not in theaters, it's on Amazon Prime, so I'll be able to pop it in and catch it. But I'm just hoping that at least you can see the actors having fun, and obviously Arsenio Hall and Eddie Murphy have aged. They look fantastic, actually, by the way. But I hope they're having fun, and that's what I like for Crystal Skull. You guys were talking about Crystal Skull. I love that movie because of Harrison Ford and Karen Allen's interaction. They really look like they're having fun going back to those characters, going back on that adventure, and you can really tell, and it hits you. It's infectious, and I love that. So I'm hoping that that Coming to America 2 is kind of the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the trailer a couple of times now. I'm the same way. I have seen the original many, many times. I actually just watched it a couple of months ago, laughed my head off as if it was the first time that I was watching it. And I personally didn't have a problem with the trailer. I'm still somewhat looking forward to watching the movie, kind of for the same reason. I just want to see these characters getting back together kind of thing. But of course, as soon as I saw, obviously, that it wasn't going to be rated R like the original already, I was like, well, I understand things have changed and I get it. Believe me, that movie for sure, if you played it now, I mean, the shock value would be insane. But, I'm still going to watch it because I watch everything. So, yeah, we'll have to circle back on that one.
So Dave has a great post that I just put up. And obviously, it is right up our alley. You've got some really great 80s sci-fi films, Terminator, Aliens, Predator, RoboCop. I'll buy that for $1. But these are great selections. And again, Terminator went through a couple of different variations in their franchise. Aliens did the same thing. We've got Predator with a crossover with the Predator versus Alien stuff that I think started in the comic books as kind of a mashup, and then they went ahead and did a movie. And then good old RoboCop. So those are all great selections for 80s movies.
I can't believe how well Predator stands up still. I went back and watched it a couple times in the last year or so. I thought maybe that's one of those ones we thought about with rose tinted glasses, but no, I mean it's a damn good movie. all around. Of course, sequels, hit or miss on those, but the original, man, that just an awesome movie all around.
Is that
Yeah.
that's the one with Arnold and
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're out in the middle of the Carl
the
Weathers,
jungle?
out in the middle
Oh,
of the
that's
jungle.
right. Carl Weathers
Yep.
is in that.
Of course,
Totally
everybody likes to use that as a meme now when they shake hands or
Yeah.
but yeah, it's an amazing movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny seeing everyone listing, all these different movies. That's actually one of the things that I ended up doing in preparation for this is I actually kind of went through the decades and obviously saw how this type of genre of movie, whether it was horror or sci-fi of some kind or fantasy, it really like amped up in the 80s. I mean, that's really why I want to do this. And, looking at some of these movies, they really were to some extent, again, this was a while ago, so I guess things were a little bit more innocent back then. So to me, a lot of these movies were also somewhat family friendly. I mean, look at Ghostbusters. I mean, everyone was able to see Ghostbusters. No one was being made fun of to go watch Ghostbusters, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So that's why I said, yeah, I think the 80s was probably a really great time to be a nerd. I mean, look how many different types of movies were going on during that decade.
And a lot of these movies have, spawned fandoms that go deep, and they're obviously mixed in with fandoms of, some of the other films that we are, that some of our favorites, obviously, Star Wars and Indiana Jones and things like that. But what about trilogies? Other than Star Wars, obviously we think of trilogies as, Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi, but we've got movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark and the subsequent movies that came out of that. We've got Back to the Future. Back to the Future, I was talking to somebody. It's kind of, I would want to say, and I'll say this out loud, and you guys can kind of talk about that. It's almost a very perfectly crafted trilogy when it comes to story, when it comes to the events that happen between the first one and the last one. Back to the Future is obviously a fan favorite, but what do you guys think of the statement that it's probably a near perfect trilogy?
I can't really agree with that, and that's only because I hate to say this, so sorry, not sorry, but I just absolutely hate that third movie. I mean, it's not that I don't watch it. I'll watch it, but I just cannot, sometimes I just can't stomach that movie. And I think that's the only thing that kind of, I can't bring myself to say it's a perfect trilogy just because of that movie. The first two, no problem. Love them.
That's interesting. Perfect trilogy. I'm not sure. We're nerds, so I don't know if we'll call anything a perfect trilogy, except for the Holy Trinity that we were based off of.
Exactly.
But
Agreed.
it's what's funny about Back to the Future is how everybody really, really has their favorites, and for different reasons. And it's interesting that you say that because for a lot of people, and I'm with you as far as Back to the Future 3, but for a lot of people, the third one is their favorite. I don't see how that happens or what drives you to have that as your favorite.
I mean, to each their own.
Yeah. A lot of people they love that one. I will always love the first one, I think, the most. But 2, I love it, but there's so much packed into it. It gets a little crazy at times. But yeah, I'm surprised how much people love the different ones and for whatever reason.
Yeah, how can you not like a Western? Come on, man. And again,
time traveling trains.
Yeah, it's the same thing with me with Alien, and I know the ladies of Force of Light just they're doing a watch on the Alien movies, but the third one I can't remember, and I don't even remember how many Alien movies there are. I know it was the third one with all the bald. Everybody was bald, right?
I thought that was
that the third
Alien
one
Resurrection. That might be the fourth one.
Fourth one
with Winona Ryder. I don't even know.
Oh yeah. Again, it's one of those things that I lost track Not
Honestly,
really lost interesting.
I barely like the second one, and a lot of people say the second one is superior to the first one, and I actually kind of disagree with that.
You
Actually,
I think
barely
I
like
remember.
Aliens?
Yeah,
I didn't like the
th-
second one. I didn't like the second one. It was too. I liked the first Alien because it felt more like a horror movie and it felt more tense. And then they flipped the switch with the second one, and it became more of an action movie. And to me,
That's
that wasn't as thrilling for me. It kind of lost that that spooky factor.
Yeah,
So
and I think Ridley Scott did that on purpose. I do remember liking the second one a little more than the original one, for different reasons. And I think you're right. The first one was more horror. The second one was a little bit more, sci-fi, adventure-ish. But
Well, you had Ridley Scott on the first one, but
right
what's his name? Titanic guy on the
on the
oh
second
yeah,
one, yeah, that's why
right.
it
the second one.
switched.
So I think that that's why you can definitely tell the difference in flavor
hmm
there.
But yeah, then the third one, Dave was saying that the third one was everybody was in prison and they were bald, which
Don't
I remember.
even
I
remember
remember
that one.
reading. Yeah, I remember reading. That's why it made it difficult to follow the action and characters because everybody looked the same, and it was confusing. Um,
Wasn't she a cyborg or an android in that one? Or was that one?
but she died in the first scene.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Yeah. Okay. Dave also not to switch gears totally off. Well, yeah, I guess to switch gears off trilogies. But Dave mentioned all the different directors that we had in the '80s and how good of a job they did. He mentioned John Carpenter in there, and
Yeah.
I'm not one for conspiracies, Ro. You know me. I
Not
tend
at
to
all,
believe
Brad.
everything that I see on the mainstream media. But I just want to put it out there. John Carpenter's "They Live" from 1988. It's a classic. I don't care who you are. Put on the damn glasses. You got to put on the glasses. And
Yeah, that's right.
so if you don't know what I'm talking about, if "They Live" doesn't mean anything to you, then turn us off. No, wait till we're done, and then go watch "They Live."
Let me get a nice shot of your face, Brad.
Oh God!
Oh my God.
Yeah. See,
Totally. I see it, brother.
especially when they're beating the
Yeah.
crap out of each other trying to for the glasses. Oh man, classic.
Yeah. Oh, Nicole's got another classic in the chat. Blues Brothers. That was a major production here in and around Chicago. I think our revenue department is still kind of recovering from that movie. To be honest, that was a big one. But yeah, nice little Star Wars connection there too. Carrie Fisher was in Blues Brothers, and Steven Spielberg made a little cameo there towards the end. That was a lot of fun.
Carrie Fisher
Oh,
has so many good cameos that people don't even realize.
yeah.
In the Jay and Silent Bob movies, she was in Fanboys for just a minute as one of the nurses in the hospital, and she's always just Carrie Fisher in those movies, which is awesome. Except for Jay and Silent Bob, where she was a nun. That wasn't very Carrie Fisher of her, but she just wanted to know if they live by the book.
She really was a spitfire. I miss her so much.
Yeah, everything went to hell after we lost Carrie Fisher and George Carlin and all those greats, and it's not the
I think
same.
they were the type of people that were kind of keeping society in check to a degree. And
They would
now,
just tell it how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, hell in a handbasket, I tell you.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, they're satire, except that they cut like a knife at the same time.
Sure.
So yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. So, what are it looks like the '80s are kind of coming back to a degree. We have shows like Stranger Things, who a big runaway hit. I think it was Netflix, one of Netflix's top watched shows. I think we're getting more more Stranger Things, so that's really great. And I love all the references that they have in the show. You've got toys from the '80s. You've got other things from the '80s, and obviously
Never Ending Story.
Yes, the Never Ending Story. That was such
Yeah.
a great episode. Well, didn't season 2 open with them going to go see Ghostbusters or trick or treating in the Ghostbusters
trick-or-treating with the
costumes?
Ghostbuster,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there is this fascination right now with this current generation with the '80s. It's really funny actually to see.
It's funnier for me to see because, as Brad said, I was in my prime back then. So
I was born in '86. Sorry, Brad. Sorry, Ro.
Somebody mentioned, well, as far as things coming back, I think most of the '80s should stay in the '80s. I think we should just appreciate for what it is and just let it stay there, because if they try to remake it, they're going to ruin it for the most part. But happy that Stranger Things is coming back for season 4. Hopefully they stay on the right track on that one. But somebody mentioned Stand By Me. And I think there was one summer, I don't know, it was like around 87, 88, somewhere around there, where I just couldn't stop watching Stand By Me. It was on, I don't know, I think it was HBO, I think.
I thought you were going to say you found a dead body, like in the movie.
Oh, no. Speaking of Stand By Me, I found a dead body back in 88. But it's cool. I had all my friends with me. We walked down the train tracks and we found it. But, a lot of people don't realize that's a Stephen King story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So it's got the psychological aspect to it, but that's one of those coming of age type stories, a little bit different than, or actually a lot different than most of Stephen King's stories. So I think Stand By Me will always be a classic.
And one of the things that also made a comeback in the late '90s or 2000s was vampires. You had what's the vampire, all the pretty people that turned into werewolves and
Twilight?
Yeah, Twilight. But we had vampires in the '80s too. Nicole just put up
The Lost
Boys.
Yeah.
Again, one of my favorites. The Lost Boys was interesting to me because it was very influential to me and my friends. We went around not claiming that we were the undead, but trench coats were the big thing. So we all walked around with spiky hair and trench coats, quoting Shakespeare in English class, whatever. But it's and obviously this was even before trench coats were a bad thing during Columbine. You have all that crap going on. But like 80s boots and trench coats and all that stuff, vampires.
Yeah, I think Kiefer Sutherland is best when he's bad. I think
I think so too.
It's true.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, he absolutely sold that one. And whenever he has a chance to, I mean, he's a great actor all around.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a necessarily bad role that he's done. But when he's bad, I think he's just on point.
It's just, I think it's a lot more fun to play something that is so far off from your character, because you really kind of just sink your teeth into as an actor. Mm-hmm. But the whole adage of bad boys have more fun. It's just to be able to play something like that, as make-believe, obviously is a lot different than actually being someone evil or bad. But I think actors have a lot of fun being the villain, and you definitely can tell some of the actors that are really having fun playing the villain, and I'm all for that. But I think you're right. Kiefer Sutherland has, I watched him in, what is that show that he plays that agent for 24. Yeah.
Yep.
And he's like you said, he's good in that, but I love it when he's just a badass.
Yeah. Now, I won't ask, toddler Chantal about this one, but Ro, what was the movie that you saw the most in the theaters in the 80s? I know what mine is right off the bat. What do you got?
Well, it's a movie that I saw about 17 times, and I don't even remember what the story was. Back in the 80s, I was a member of the Television Motion Academy, whatever. And they used to send me just a whole bunch of free passes. And I always got free passes to Lawnmower Man and I don't even know who's in it. I don't even know what it's about.
That's another Stephen King movie.
Was it? Oh,
Yeah. It's cheesy, but it's also got some great moral issues in there about what to do with knowledge if you were to get it. And that's one of the first that had to do with virtual reality and using virtual reality type things to learn. But overall, pretty cheesy movie. I'm glad you got the tickets for free. But Top Gun. Top Gun was the first movie I ever saw multiple times in the theaters. And I think we saw it 6 or 7 times in the theaters when it came out. I don't know what it was about that movie. I mean, it is definitely a badass movie and a really fun movie, but I don't know why we got so hooked on it. My family did. And I think we saw about 6 or 7 times in the theaters.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna. I just checked, and Dave checked for me. Lawnmower Man was 1992.
Yeah, I thought it was a little out of the 80s.
Yeah,
but it was still coming out of it. Still had that 80s touch to it when it came out.
It seemed like it. Reminded me of. I think the poster reminded me of Tron, a little bit for some reason. I remember you talk about the virtual reality stuff, so I remember kind of like a weird grid or something. But yeah, I mean, if I want to say the 80s, I don't know. I was pissed off at my mom in the 80s because I had piano classes and she wouldn't let me go to the theater to go see Return of the Jedi on opening night. So I've got issues because of that.
Only because of that?
No, not only that. It started there.
As far as different genres go, the 80s was also a great decade for war movies as well. You had Hamburger Hill, Full Metal Jacket, Platoon. So, those all revisited Vietnam. It was, now, depending on what year it was, 10 to 20 years, outside Vietnam. So they could actually do some reflection on the war and what it meant and what it did to the guys that were over there. So those movies, especially, I mean, Hamburger Hill was just a pretty violent movie, but Platoon and Full Metal Jacket, those really delved into the psychological aspects of war and getting ready for war, and then what it did to you when you got back. I can't remember what year it came out. I think it's a late 80s movie, but Born on the 4th of July also revisited Vietnam and how people got treated when they got back. So a lot of good movies there in the War Department as well.
Yeah,
it's funny they should mention that. I remember being on this war movie kick, and I remember Hamburger Hill and some of the other war movies. I even went back to see Big Red One with Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. That was another one that I actually bought on DVD because I have fond memories of seeing that movie, and I think that came out in 1980, and it was black and white, and I think we just started talking about that a while ago, but yeah, I don't know why. Apocalypse Now, obviously, Francis Ford Coppola, with a little help from Uncle George Lucas. But yeah, I was on a kick. Even went back as far as Bridge on the River Kwai with Sir Alec Guinness. I think he's in that. So I started watching all of those. Some John Wayne war movies. So interesting stuff. Yeah.
Trilogies. We didn't talk about Superman. Well, not necessarily a trilogy, but a series. Superman movies, and except for the one that nobody remembers. For many years I didn't realize this movie existed, but the one, was it the third one with Richard Pryor in it?
I knew you were going to bring that one up.
Yeah. I'm like, wait, which one are you talking about? And I'm like, I remember the Sun guy, and I remember the first ones with Zod. No, the one with Richard Pryor. I'm like, what are you smoking, man?
Quest for Peace. Yeah.
There's no Superman movie with Richard Pryor. Go back. Okay. Well, yeah, there is.
That's hilarious.
There's a reason why most people don't know about it. That was kind of awful.
Was that the third one?
That was the third one. Yeah.
That's another trilogy that Frank is just a fan of, just 1 and 2. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, Scott. Scott actually likes Superman 3. What I meant was it's a great movie. As like we said, to each their own. If that's your thing, that's your thing.
Yeah,
So
not
what
a
other
sorry.
what other genres? I mean, we talked a little bit about what about horror? We talked John Carpenter. Oh,
Yeah.
Wes Craven.
Wes Craven.
Yep. You had, those are all fun. I don't know horror, but the Gremlins movies. I believe the first Tremors was in the late '80s. I think the
Was
first
it?
one.
Was
It was
that
either
right?
it was right around '90. I don't know if it was right before or right after. Obviously, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah,
Fly.
they like to mess with our brains there, with our psyches in the '80s with all those movies.
Yeah, Tremors was 90,
Mm-hmm.
and
I consider
Hammer-
90, as we all know, you start 1 to 10, so 90s still the
right,
80s.
right, still in the 80s. Exactly. Directed by Ron Underwood. Yeah. And then they remade it for The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it wasn't for Tremors, we wouldn't have a Krayt Dragon. And
That's true.
Mandalorian.
Yeah, I was really into, like Nicole mentioned, the Halloween movies. I had a friend of mine, the guy that does the Sentry Mode voiceover, and my buddy, I grew up with him. We were really into Halloween and Friday the 13th and Jason movies. We used to chase the neighborhood kids with butter knives taped to a work glove. We would pretend we were Freddy Krueger. And chase the kids all over the neighborhood. It was a lot of fun, and parents really loved us.
That's awesome.
You know,
There was
those
one- there was-
Halloweens, I would say those Halloweens around that time were pretty predictable. You were one of 5 to 10 characters, and Freddy and
Right.
Jason being on top of those.
And they, later in life, they became parodies of themselves. Obviously we've got Geico commercials that make fun of, hiding behind a barn full of chainsaws instead of the actual car that's running,
Yeah.
in the barn to escape the big baddie. But yeah, those are we used to do those like homemade films, and I remember creating blood packs and putting them under latex, skin on your arms, and taking some retractable plastic knives and freaking the crap out of our parents.
But
But those were the days. Those were the days.
Yeah, nothing else to do.
An actor we haven't talked about too much yet. I'm not sure why. Mel Gibson, whether it's the Lethal Weapon trilogy however many Lethal Weapons they made, and the
Mad Max.
Max.
There you go.
and those movies still, those were a couple that they tried to continue a couple years back, and those were entertaining in their own way. But yeah, Mad Max, those were some really fun movies.
I remember watching the first Mad Max. Is this my imagination playing tricks on me, or was the first Mad Max in black and white?
No, I don't think so.
No, that would be your
No.
your memory is in black and white, Ro.
Right.
So
No, it wasn't. It was Road Warrior, or maybe my friend had a black and white TV, and that's what we watched it on.
yeah, I think that's what it was.
Perhaps.
First one's in color for sure. Yeah.
It's
Wow.
funny the things that you
Ro
remember.
belongs in a museum.
He's slipping.
I used to watch it on an old UHF TV.
Yeah, how's Beta?
Yeah.
Beta.
Hey, Beta was better than VHS, by the way.
Until we got Laserdisc.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I still have my laser discs from. I have the Star Wars laser discs, which is actually one of the collections of the Star Wars laser disc has the only actor commentary on the secondary track that includes George Lucas, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford. You can probably find them on YouTube, but that's probably the first and very last time they ever did something like that, which is kind of cool. The
of
more
course
you know.
because you can't do anything else with Laserdisc but keep them.
But I got the player. I still got the player. Still works.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But yeah, the whole beta versus VHS was a big marketing ploy. Scott says he still has Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi and video disc. Yeah.
Wow.
I probably have every incarnation of the original trilogy that was ever released, whether it's the VHS special edition, the VHS widescreen, the VHS pan and scan, the VHS, uncut. And then you had the laser discs, the compendium, you had the special 9-disc trilogy. I got them all. And then once the rest of the movies, it's sad because The Last Jedi is the only Star Wars movie that I did not buy on either DVD or digital. But for reasons that you already know.
Yeah, no, one of the things you wanted to talk about was the technology changes that we had over the years. You can see a huge difference between there is a black and white version
I saw
of Road.
I'm not imagining things. I'm gonna have to look that up because
that was also a black
remember
and white. Anyway, so technology over the years, how it changed. The difference in seeing a movie, or between 78 and 82, between ones you're seeing in the late 80s. How did technology change and improve over those years to make the movies so much better?
Wow, where do we start? I mean, are you talking about the theater experience per se, or?
No, I mean
the production aspect.
The movie production itself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously, Uncle George had a lot to do with that, both in the production of movie making and the theater experience with his standardization of theater sound through THX Labs. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that inspires me about George Lucas and ILM, all the wonderful technological contributions that George Lucas made to the industry as a whole. I think it enhances our experience as fans and moviegoers, both just watching the film and then experiencing it in the theater. I think it's you can't say enough about the work that George Lucas and ILM did for fans. Whatever side of the fence you are with Lucasfilm, I think you can never, overstate that fact.
Yeah, definitely can't take that away from him.
Stop motion was a big thing, at least in the earlier half of that decade. Is stop motion still being used at all, or is that just a relic?
It seems like it's used rarely, just because it's such a process.
And I think a lot of the stop motion is done as reference, and then it all gets scanned into a computer and smoothed out. When stop motion first happened, obviously you had the can never remember his name. Harryhausen.
Is that the one for like Clash of the Titans, the one that did all those?
Yeah, even Jason and the Argonauts.
Yeah.
So the stop motion was very choppy. You can tell that it was like frame by frame by frame by frame, and then you guys you got the advent of the blurring between frames, which gave it a little bit more of a realistic feel when it comes to motion, and obviously computer generation changes it all. But I don't know as far as traditional stop motion if they still do that. And obviously with Jurassic Park, the guys over at ILM wanted to do the dinosaurs as stop motion. And then Dennis Muren came in and kind of screwed the pooch when it comes to stop motion and started doing all that stuff CGI, which again was another jump in technology when it comes to filmmaking and storytelling. Getting back to the Star Wars era, the Mandalorian kind of took some of the old school ways of shooting practical ships and multiple passes for the flyover instead of having to have done them in the computer, which I thought was great when I saw that sizzle reel and the ILM people were in the garage just making these machines to control the cameras to photograph an actual model of a ship. I thought that was great. And I always think that stuff looks a hell of a lot better than CGI. I mean, CGI is pretty good and it's easier and cheap, but there's something about photographing an actual practical ship, especially in the world of Star Wars. It just there's just, I don't know, there's a realism to it that I don't think can be matched.
Technology has its good and its bad. And I personally think right now this is exactly why I also chose the whole 80s topic, because I do miss those days of, sets and, like you said, the stop motion animation. I mean, Tim Burton is a huge, I'm absolutely in love with him as a director, but I feel like CGI has killed a lot of things too. So, it would be nice if we could go backwards, but the problem is, like you just said, CGI makes everything cheaper now. So, but it would be nice.
Yeah, the thing about CGI, and Dave has a great point, the Sherlock Holmes movie, the first digital character. The thing about CGI is, obviously, with any technology, you can use it, but as long as your story is good, and that's obviously what George Lucas was trying to tell us, that you can have the best CGI in the world, but if the story, falls flat, and that's an arguable statement when it comes to George Lucas, but it's true. Scotty from Star Trek says, the right tool for the right job. But I still think, and again, because I'm such a technology geek, that I love seeing the technology that is used in filmmaking, whether it's CGI. We've talked to Yoshi Vu, who worked on Rise of Skywalker and Mandalorian, and it's just fascinating to me. I love the work that they put in, and then obviously knowing quite a few 3D artists, just the work that they put in to create images is just nothing short of miraculous.
Speaking of technology and George Lucas, Ro, you probably know this. In fact, I think we may have talked about it before, but Chantal, I got a piece of trivia for you. What was the highest auction ever? What item received the highest auction ever related to Star Wars?
Ooh.
I like to ask people this question because I went to a Star Wars trivia one night, and when I go to a Star Wars trivia, I expected it to be questions about Star Wars, but then they come out with stupid ass questions like this and then make me lose because the questions like this have nothing to do with actual movies. So anyway, I like to ask people this
I was going to say the Revenge of the Jedi poster, but now you have me second guessing myself. So
this is something from the original.
Original.
You mentioned this in a previous episode many moons ago, and I want to say,
and she just hasn't gotten to it on her listen yet.
Yeah, and I can't remember what it was, but I'll guess.
Yep. Go ahead.
For some reason, I have it's one of the pieces off of the Death Star panel.
Nope.
The Death Star trench. No,
it's not. It is and this is Ro, you should know this one. It was the Panavision PSR 35 millimeter camera that was used to film the original Star Wars movie in 1977, and it went for $625,000 in a 2011 auction in Beverly Hills. So $625,000 for the camera that they used to film A New Hope.
I think I got it right here too.
Yeah, it's right back there by Vader.
That's pretty cool. I love that. I'm a camera geek.
Yeah, who would have known that? Who would have known? I mean, besides all of us now that know. But anybody that knew that night,
yeah,
Google
totally. What were some of the other questions during that?
I don't know. I repressed it all because I was so pissed from that one. If it was anything related to the movie, I got that. But stupid questions like that. It was like what's in that same category, what city was was it which one did they talk about? Corellia? What city was Corellia based off of?
Detroit.
And, yeah, so that's what I was thinking. Some crap heap like that. But I mean, to all of our fans in Detroit, that's not what I meant. I don't think we have any, but anyway, it was someplace in Italy. I think it was like Naples or something. And I'm like, where did you get what? Why are we looking at the same Corellia? But yeah, so that portion of the trivia really got me. We were way ahead, and then not after that portion.
And speaking of trivia, do you remember the question that I asked on last week's Tatooine Hot Takes? The one where I wanted to give away 5 Scarif swag boxes to some of our favorite listeners, or at least the listeners that bothered to answer the question and listen to the podcast.
Yeah, that was also one that I did not know.
Yeah, so I asked in last week's Tatooine Hot Take, what was the name of the previous Red 5 before Luke took over that designation? And Brad, you didn't realize that he actually had a name. You can see him in Rogue One, and I gave everybody a hint that obviously you can just plug in that question in Google and cheat if you want to, but definitely. So we did get 5 people that got the answer right. They were able to direct message me and post the answer on the Twitter there. And I just wanted to give them a shout out for listening, first of all, but also getting that right. And one of them is Vader Rapina. Let's see if he's still in the chat. He was in here a while ago. Scott, you are the winner of one of our Scarif swags. We also have Carl. He left because he had to go back to work. He lives in New Zealand, so the timing is a little off. And so is the postage. So I'm just going to send him an Amazon gift card. Because last time I sent him a poster and it cost me $6,412.58.
Same as a Panavision PSR 35.
Right, exactly. So those are the 2 people that won. We got also Nicole, Peace, Love, Star Wars. Thank you very much, Nicole, for answering that correctly. And Todd, over at WSTR Galactic Public Access, also gave us the correct answer. So I'll be sending him a little something. He's local, so he's in Chicago, so the postage won't be as much. And actually, Chantal, you also answered correctly before you were the co-host.
I will exempt myself.
So thank you very much. You answered correctly. We asked for 5, but we had 6 people answer it, and I didn't want to leave him out. Your buddy Frank Velasquez,
Yay.
Frank 402, also answered correctly, and want to make sure that we send him something out as well. So thank you guys for listening to that podcast episode and answering correctly. That is fantastic. I don't know the guy's name, Red 5, so I'm going to have to look it up real fast. Talk amongst yourselves.
How you gonna ask a question and not know the answer? Is that his? I wonder if that's his name in the credits. I figured his name was just gonna be Red 5, and I tell you, that guy had no courage under fire. I mean, he trailed off. But
Pedron Gall.
Yeah,
Pedron Gall.
Maybe Alexander Freed mentioned his name in the novel, the novelization. I don't remember.
Could be. All right, what else we got?
Tell you that it's always good to go back and this is like you said, this was a great topic, because we talk about the lunchtime talk, sitting around the table talking about everything we love and just taking a trip down memory lane, if you will, through the 80s, and there's just, like you said, right at the top of the show, there's just so much to love about the 80s. And then, talk about spinoffs and stuff like that. How many of these shows made cartoons to follow. Like I used to watch the Ghostbusters cartoon all the time. And Saturday mornings, we just don't have Saturday mornings like we used to in the 80s. I don't even know what's on TV on Saturday morning, but between the hours of 7 and 10, you were actually probably 7 to 11, you were in front of that TV watching cartoons, and then your mom made you do housework after that. But that time was sacred when you had your Cocoa Puffs and just the TV. So many good things to love about the 80s, and it's always good to go back and talk about them again.
Yeah. And I know I barely lived through the 80s, but I definitely remember my Saturday morning cartoons and Gem and Care Bears and My Little Pony and Transformers and the Ghostbusters cartoon. I definitely remember all of that. I mean, I watched everything. Like I said, TV was definitely a great babysitter. So, yeah, I miss those days. I really do.
And we want to, talk about favorite movies. Talk about Transformers. When somebody wants to talk about Transformers the movie, there's nothing Michael Bay related to it. It's the original Transformers the movie back from '85, and man, that's the first time I ever saw a Transformer die. I didn't know that was even possible, but within the first 3 minutes of that movie, a Transformer died. 2 or 3, in fact. And so many voice actors in that movie. Leonard Nimoy was in that movie. Orson Welles was in that movie. So many great voice actors. And, it had its cheesy 80s, music in the background stuff. But as far as storytelling and just great action and adventure, that movie still holds up today.
I still eat my Cocoa Puffs Saturday morning.
And Hot Rod is better than Rodimus Prime, just for anybody wondering.
That's awesome. So, we can't end without telling everybody what Red 5 is up to. And I know some of our Red Fivers have asked me to give them a little shout out, and some of them showed up in the chat. But I just wanted to say that, let's see. This all gets edited anyway, so hold on a second here. Big shout out to Wookiee Radio. He's got an interview with Kevin Scott tomorrow. That would be Monday and should release on Sunday. So congrats to Wookiee Radio. We've been trying to get Kevin on the Scuttlebutt for months now, but our timing is a little off.
I think we're almost up to a year now.
Almost. Yeah. And I think the first day we scheduled him, all the goofy stuff and rioting was happening, so we kind of postponed it because times were crazy. Yep. But let's see, who's got an AMA? I think I was like years old when I realized what AMA meant.
You mean like the American Music Awards?
Exactly.
That's what the AMA means to me. I don't know.
Yeah. So the Escape Pod has a little thing going. They do an Ask Me Anything on Mondays, I think. So there you go. You were today years old. But so they're going to do on Wednesday's live YouTube record. They usually do their thing on Wednesday, and you can head on over there and ask them anything and see what happens. But awesome. Congratulations to all our Red Fivers, and make sure you guys visit red5network.com to check out all the cool things that some of our pods are playing. Oh, and I'm doing trivia with the Science Fictionary on Tuesday, so I hope you guys will join us and check that out as well.
I don't want to make you look bad on there, so
maybe they'll have that auction question. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Yep, and we mentioned last week that Chantal was doing a re-listen to the straight through the old episodes of the Scuttlebutt. So if you want to join her in that endeavor, I got a recommendation for you, and that's to listen to episode 34, where we actually had the guys on from Conversations. You can part of the Red 5 Network, and you can find them on Twitter at Swations. But on that episode, we talked about Saw Gerrera, and obviously we talk about Rogue One just a little bit on this show. Might be the basis for our name, but Saw Gerrera and everything about him, what he meant to the rebellion, and was he a hero, anti-hero, and that sort of thing. So we had a really lively conversation with those guys. That was back from July of last year. So if you want to check that one out, that was episode 34. So give that one a listen and let us know what you think about that one.
And didn't you do a little guest stint on one of our new Red 5 members, Ashley and Brandy's Star Wars journey?
Yes,
what'd you guys talk about?
That was really cool. They invited me on, and yeah, that's you can find them on Twitter at Ashley and Brandy. They're one of our newer members to Red 5 Network. They have the show Star Wars Journey, where they're going back and watching, or not going back, but they're watching the Clone Wars for the first time.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They invited me to come on and talk about the first 14 episodes of season 2 of the Clone Wars. When I first got the invite, I was like, ugh, I thought it was the season. I was way off. That was the season I was thinking was season 4. I thought I'd start off with Mon Calamari and all those episodes. No, this one starts off with a bang with the Holocron Heist right from the Jedi Temple, and it goes into the arc where they want the little Force-sensitive children, and sending Cad Bane to go get the babies from around the universe or around the galaxy. Those episodes were amazing. So I was happy to have an excuse to go back and rewatch season 2 of the Clone Wars. But definitely check them out. That was a really fun conversation.
I'm actually in the same boat as them. I just started watching it. I think I'm halfway through season 2. So I'm going to have to take a listen to them as well.
Yep. And one of the later ones in that discussion was The Deserter. And it's a completely different type of, that's what I loved about the Clone Wars, is they weren't all war stories. They weren't all just droids and clones fighting each other. You had a lot of moral issues being brought up there, and philosophical issues. And that one about a clone who deserted the Republic Army and just became a simple farmer with his wife and kids.
I literally just saw that episode. Yep.
I'm a little confused how the kids got so old, since the Clone Wars was only 3 years in its totality. But we'll say that Twilight kids grow faster than humans. I don't know. But their aging aside, that was an amazing episode. So please check out that podcast.
I'm glad you're jotting it down. Excellent. So, yeah, we covered a lot. The 80s was such a great decade for entertainment, and such a great time to be a geek. I know, we talked a lot about some of our other favorite franchises and IPs, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and everything that we enjoyed about the 80s. And I think we're still enjoying a lot of that stuff now. We definitely are kind of reliving a renaissance. I think we owe it to ourselves to do an episode on how lucky it is to be a geek. And I think we should definitely do something like that. Maybe we'll invite one of our other Red 5 members, and we can definitely talk about that. But anything else before we end? We had a great show. Thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight, Sunday, to chat with us over here at the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Any closing thoughts?
Chantal, did you read anything mean on the internet that you wanted to?
I didn't see anything. Play nice, children. No, I didn't see anything. But just the only closing thought that I have is just some nerd news. This coming Friday, WandaVision, last episode, which means we got Falcon and Winter Soldier coming up soon on, I think, March 19th. And then after that, we've got Loki coming in June, and I just discovered that James Gunn should start filming for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 at the end of this year. So we got all of that to look forward to. So a lot going on in the nerd world.
I'm glad you mentioned that. This will be the third Guardians of the Galaxy, which will complete James Gunn's trilogy, the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. Really enjoyed those movies. They were really different. And talk about different. I mean, WandaVision is such a great show. Now that, we're getting into later, the later part of the story here, really refreshing, really to kind of see the story play out. But for Guardians of the Galaxy, is that the start of the next phase of Marvel, the MCU? I think
so. Yeah.
Along with the rest of the stuff. But yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure WandaVision, I think we're going to give her a whole show here on the new and improved Scuttlebutt, because that's been an amazing story. My sons, we were looking for, once we were, when we were watching Mandalorian, obviously every Friday morning, my son and I were getting up and watching The Mandalorian, but they've been excited since we got caught up on WandaVision, just as excited every Friday to catch that. So that's been an amazing story. And as far as closing thoughts go, I just want to pass on something that my 7-year-old son said yesterday, and that was calling somebody nerd is a compliment. So embrace
Agreed.
your and outer nerd, folks.
Absolutely. And again, thank you very much, Chantal, for coming on to the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast with us. We're going to let you close out the show this time around. And thank you, everyone who was in the chat and joined us tonight. We had a great conversation. Thank you very much for your input. And keep those Tatooine hot takes coming. We might have changed our appearance a little bit, but we love those Tatooine hot takes, so keep them coming. Chantal, what do you got to say?
And that's the Scuttlebutt.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
She's been practicing all week.
Yeah, all week. Awesome.
Sell it.